Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadirlakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nithyanandam. Welcome to this evening's episode of Vaakyaartha Sadhas by the sanths and disciples of Swami Paramahamsa Nithyananda. Today's topic for Vaakyaartha Sadhas is initiation. Our experience and how we live oneness when we experience this initiation. I think it's following one of the most beautiful satsangs which we had this morning. It has left all of us deeply touched. In fact, when we saw the satsang this morning, it has left us feeling initiated already. So deep silence inside all of us soon after the satsang was over. And it took us back to the memory of when we were initiated first by our master. But before we actually move into Vaakyaartha Sadhas, it's a deep gratitude to our master for having given us this. An experience of ourselves, a true authentic experience, which came in with his sharing, which came in with his initiation to us. We are deeply blessed having Master in our lives, and in deep gratitude to what has been given to us. With this, I'd like anyone to come forward and share their experience of what they have felt as initiation with Swamiji.
Initiation, Diksha. My experience and what I understand from experience and learning from Swamiji, initiation, Diksha is how we start walking on our spiritual journey. And not only in spiritual journey, it can be in education also, it can be in any field. When you are initiated, you actually start walking on that path. It's a definite destination, and you start walking towards that in which you are initiated. So until that, we go in 10 directions, searching for that thing to happen. Let's say for me, experience of samadhi or experience of meditation, the dhyana state, it never happened until I was going in 10 directions. It came as glimpses, but never it happened that I could experience it whenever I want. And let's say 24/7. Once I was initiated, it just became very sahaj. It became very natural to me that I was just able to experience it. And my journey started from initiation. Before that, I was just searching, okay, what is the right path?
I'm not initiated as a sannyasi yet, but I did receive initiation from Swamiji in 2010. He had asked me to come to the ashram and write for him, which a lot of people thought was an unusual request because I had been basically going to hell and back in the West. And when the clouds cleared, I got this phone call, "Can you come?" And I did. And when he realized I had never taken any of his courses, he let me attend the Living Enlightenment Process free course that he was offering that summer for 7 weeks. And it was an astonishing journey because it basically explained everything that had happened to me in the West, and I realized it had been an inner awakening program that I had attended, even though I wasn't aware of his guidance. That was in fact what was happening, and he always knew I would come here when it was over. And as a result of that, when the program was over, he offered me initiation. And I remember I was in the hall that night, and I was just in street clothes from Canada, and I didn't have a spiritual name. But when he started initiating people, my mind kept saying, oh, I wonder if he'll call my name. And then my logical mind would step in and go, of course he won't call your name. You haven't submitted anything. You're not in the, you haven't applied. You haven't done all the steps. And people were being initiated and running up on stage, and I just kept hoping, maybe he'll call my name. And all of a sudden he looked out into the audience and said, would anyone else out there like initiation? And of course my hand shot up in the air. And next thing I knew, I was on stage being initiated as an ashramite. And I had been initiated previously into Kriya Yoga by Paramahamsa Yogananda's lineage, but it wasn't by an incarnation in a physical body. It was by someone who was an acharya, who was in his ashram, and it was a lovely experience. And so I was thinking that's what I was going to receive. And as you can probably confirm, I felt like I'd plugged into the biggest energy generator on the planet. I received the initiation, and that whole night I was vibrating at such a high level, I couldn't sleep, and I almost didn't know what to do with myself. I got up and I paced, and I tried doing some yoga and breathing, and it was just overwhelming, the amount of energy roaring through my system. And that was the first time I realized that we had no clue what this meant. That initiation, we thought it was, like a marriage vow or something, that it would be some psychological, mental state. But in fact, it's quantum physics. You give permission for the universe to plug you into a whole energy stream that it's impossible to ignore. Once you're in that energy stream, your life starts changing, and the master just starts cleaning out all the dust bunnies that are hiding in every corner and giving you such clarity of thought. So even though I had to return to the West to clean up my life so I could return, it never left. That high frequency stayed with me, and it's honestly the greatest gift you can ever get.
Megan, it's such a beautiful experience, and your sharing has been something so beautiful. Actually, that was my experience during NSP also, when my first initiation happened. And there's such an intense joy inside of my being. I didn't know what was happening inside of me. There's so much of bliss, so much of happiness. For what reason, I didn't know. And it was like as if I found myself, and I just couldn't stop speaking about him. My thoughts, my dreams, my actions, everything was only circling around him. And any conversation that happened was only revolving around the master. I knew I had found him when the program was happening itself, because there's such an intense attraction. The force of attraction was tremendous. The being had already recognized something it could see for itself, it could relate with, it could identify, it could merge with. I don't know, it was such a wonderful feeling. And when I came out also, for months on end, there's only one thing. I wish everybody could get initiated by him. I wish everybody knew there's a person like this who's giving such a beautiful experience of how to live life. There's nothing that came in the way. Love was just pouring out. I was just radiating that energy. And anyone who would come on the road, I was just smiling. I was just sharing whatever there was inside of me as energy. There's nothing stopping me at all. There was no logic inside of me. I'd gone beyond that space of logic. I just didn't know. But the joy was intense. It was so intense. It was so beautiful. All I wanted to was, hey, come, just meet him. just do this program, just get initiated and know how it is to lead life and live life. It was an amazing experience, and it continues to have that surge of excitement which was there. One side of it was his touch, which had done it on the Agnya Chakra. The other side was, even before that happened in the program, there are many, many things as he was talking itself, which was creating some kind of a click inside of me. It was like, I know that's the truth. And somewhere when the logic would say, no, no, how can you think of it? The being was deeply getting connected to that. It knew very well that that is the truth, and it lives by it. And it has started shifting itself automatically. The connection had already happened much before the Agnya Chakra initiation happened. And that was the most beautiful thing, because as I went up itself, I knew I had found my search had ended primarily. I think the being has been searching, and it knew it had come to that spot where it was so deeply relaxed that it had found what it wanted to for, I don't know, janmas, lifetimes, I don't know. It was such a beautiful experience, an amazing experience. That is a time actually I felt so deeply one with him. And I just said, okay, whatever needs to happen, something like a surrender that had happened. It was fighting life all along, but at that point of time, there was a deep surrender to the ultimate. I just said, okay, it was like almost, yes, I found it. Now I don't need to worry about my life anymore, and I've given myself to you. Just do what you have to do with me, and that is all that is needed. It was a very, very beautiful experience.
I met Swamiji during one of the Kaltaru Darshan in Kodaikanal almost 3 years back, and I was going through a tough phase. I was going through a tough phase of my life 3 years back, and that's when I got to know about Swamiji, and I met him in one of the Kaltaru Darshan in Kodaikanal. After meeting him, within 4 or 5 months, every problem for which I went there, it got resolved, and I got busy in my life once again, and kind of forgot about him. So after 1.5 years again, my life was in mess, and again I thought, okay, I was looking for help in my life, and that's when I got to know about NDY, which was happening in Varanasi exactly 1 year back. So that time I was kind of decided that, okay, let me see and experience it, what is there. Because I have met him, but I have not got initiated by him or attended any of the program. Since I have tried each and everything possible in life, so I was quite receptive to him at that point of time. And somehow things had fallen in place, and I could manage attending NDY. At the end of second day, when I was still sitting at the same place where NDY was happening, I felt such a piece of, so much of calmness inside me. And that's when I realized, my God, I was looking for this whole my life. And how easy it was for me. And only thing was that I was not prepared for it. I was not ready for it. That's when I decided, I just thought about it, that if 2 days of NDY program can do this to me, what will 21 days do? And immediately that time, I made initial payment for next IA, which was July Haridwar last year. So I did not even, I made a small payment, but I was feeling, I was desperately looking for that. And I decided in my mind that no matter what it takes for me, I am going to go. And I heard Swamiji saying that money and time is my responsibility. I just need your will. And that's when I got that strength that if he can give me this experience, he can do anything. So let me just close my eyes and just take a jump. And that's how I actually made it to July IA with lots of ups and downs. And since then, life is not the same. It's been 8 months now, and so much has changed inside me and around me. So many things which were of interest for me, they are no longer in my life. Even people or job or whatever was the priority that time. I Power of initiation. If I, as per my understanding and whatever experience I have in my spiritual journey, Swamiji plants seed in your system. He has given me a seed, a part of his experience to me, and he has just, the way he described it was that I have given you driving license. Now you are ready to go. Now it depends on you that what you do with your license, whether you start moving or just sit idle and decide not to do anything about it. But what I feel is that even if we consciously decide not to do anything about it, we will be going through, like, self-discovery has started. The self-discovery has started at the very time when he initiated, it has just started. That subconscious process or whatever, so many changes are happening even without me being aware of it or knowing about it. So I guess this initiation was the one of the intense moment of my life. Like, I cannot recall anything which was so powerful as was Master's initiation.
In today's satsang, when Swamiji described about his relationship with Arunagiri Yogeshwar, it's like I could not believe it was such a sweet relationship. I can never imagine this can happen to anyone. It just like soaked my heart so much. I could not describe it at all. How he explained about how his relationship with him and what he was doing, how he was playing with him, it was really out of the world. Only that I could say. There was just tears rolling from my eyes. And when he says that he become me, I become him.
I know the other day Swamiji said he wasn't just some middle of the road type of guru, he was an otherworldly guru who demanded transformation. And I think his story today showed that, because his initiation came from the other world. He was actually taken into another dimension by a being who had passed out of a physical body, who manifested a body for Swamiji. And there's not many people in the world who can make that kind of claim and still be willing to be here in a body and help all of us who are fumbling around, trying to do our best. He's been initiated at such a high level and such a high frequency. And I think that helps explain why it's such an intense experience with him compared to other gurus who might be around. You're tapping into such a multi-dimensional energy field that it is very hard to explain. I do know he said people who just come to take courses and everything, he can work with them to a degree, but unless you accept initiation into the lineage, you aren't giving him permission to dive all the way in and be the energy that runs you. And I think that's what's so profound about initiation, is you're basically saying, you're opening all the doors and just saying, come in, do whatever has to be done.
Quite correct, Megan. I think when an initiation happens by an avatara purusha or an enlightened being, what happens inside of us is actually we understand the purpose of our life. We understand who we are. He always said when an initiation happens, expect the unexpected to happen. It's very beautifully he had worded it. The expecting an unexpected thing to happen inside of us when an initiation happens. Today's was a very beautiful satsang where Nithyananda is still in that space. It's almost like as if she's also been initiated with that talk. It's a deep, deep experience of Advaita, which is there, so much of love pouring inside, and such an authentic expression of that relationship. It's also left us feeling that that's the same thing that we have experienced with him. That never-ending love, that compassion that has come in from him for nothing in return, absolutely nothing. That you know what your path is. Just understand, come in alignment with what your purpose of life is. That is what I'm here to give you through this initiation. And it really puts you in that different space. I think it's a different realm altogether, like Ritu was telling. Suddenly you get aligned to something else, which you've been holding on to, you drop, which is really futile in life, which you've been pursuing so long, thinking that's the most important thing. That just drops by itself. You start looking at some other kind of a dimension inside of us. And it's a beautiful expression by itself. What an initiation can do.
Being with Swamiji for from the year 2009, I have been initiated by various programs like Kalpataru and then Inner Awakening, also Nirahara Samema. By experiencing these different initiations through different processes, the programs, I could experience that whatever I am initiated into, I have that strength and energy and also the space to practice that spiritual practice that I am initiated into. So it was making me, experience that space and also not lose the intensity also. That intensity was remaining there, that I practiced that. Ajapa Japa, also we did the practice, we were initiated into it. Every time, and before when I had tried to do Japam, it was not happening so authentically, it was just mind was wandering. But when I was initiated, 21 days process it was, and we were doing it continuously and for 6 hours every day and stuff like that. So that time it was just happening. There was no problem. Even at night, my time was night time. And I used to do, I will go to the office, I'll come back and I'll do the Ajapa Japa for 6 hours at night, which was just happening. Like it was so naturally happening. And I had that energy, I had that intensity to do that. Every time, and Nirahara Samema also, I could just very naturally be without food. Hunger was just gone. And being on liquids, just hardly having anything. And for years from birth time, I would say, we never go beyond, let's say, 5 days fasting. And that also with a lot of food and a lot of fruits. But here I was just taking few drinks and I was just okay. So how it was becoming possible for me was just initiation. There was no other cause for that I could do that. So practicing spiritual practices was becoming possible for me by the help of Master. He initiating me into these practices, and that was really helping me break my patterns and grow. When my patterns are breaking, when my incompletions are getting over, and based on one incompletion has lots of sub patterns and depending patterns and all that, that was also I was really growing very fast in my spiritual journey. So initiation just was must for me. Before that, there was no way I could grow. There was no other path that I could see. I was just wandering and trying to search something that could help me. And once I experienced that Kalpataru program initiation, where I could get just with one touch, I got the Samadhi experience. I'm like, okay, well, one touch can give me this. What will be 21 days? So I just came over for Inner Awakening, and it just simply transformed me so much. I could not realize myself. I was still holding on to some judgments of the outer world, people are like this and situations are like this. How will I handle them? I am back now, no doubt. But when the same situations came, the transformation was such, just with power of initiation, that I could just respond it so beautifully, and my relationships changed, my way of handling myself, carrying myself, and responding to the situation was completely changed. Situations were same, just the response was changed. Just with initiation, nothing else. 21 days program. So that was the power of initiation that completely transformed me, and after that the life was not same. It was just so different because a big transformation happened, and it was just a growth.
And what about your initiation into sannyas?
Yes, that that is something that is maybe in Janmas it happens, and when that initiation happened in Varanasi during Kumbh Mela in 2013, we were a bunch of sannyasis and brahmacharis were initiated, and when that happened, it was just one initiation and the big shift had happened in the inner space. It was just a big shift. It just totally changed my eye, the inner space. It was such high plane that I experienced just with one initiation there. And then again, there was never, I could ever, one even thought came that anything other than sannyas lifestyle there can be in my life. It was just this is life. It's such a it is such a strong initiation. It is such a power to live sannyas just with one initiation. Otherwise, people spend years together to align with the sannyas. People wander, they do a lot of spiritual practices, and then they, be established in the sannyas. But here, just one initiation, I could not even have one thought even that anything other than this can be my life. So that strong is that powerful initiation. It is when Master initiates into an avatara, an incarnation initiates into sannyas.
Nithyanandam, I just wanted to share some of my experiences with initiation and specifically with Kundalini, because I feel like Swami gives so many initiations into that help me to experience oneness and to live that, initiation into listening, initiation into enriching as an acharya, and all of these things, and of course Kundalini initiation. And I find all of the initiations go towards awakening the Kundalini, and then that's what gives me this energy that is kind of beyond myself and puts me into this space I'm much bigger than me, and I can do much more, and that by itself seems to just create that experience of oneness. So the Kundalini initiation for me was a huge thing because it meant that I could live anywhere in the world, and I could live with that energy and that experience of oneness anywhere in the world. So that was there's no attachments with that. So I thought that was an amazing gift that he gives. And then other than that, I think just kind of, in a sense, kind of the most kind of simple and amazing initiation for me is that science of enriching. And that when you cause someone else's reality, when you raise them to a higher conscious space, that change opens up in you. That, for me, I was working with an enriching temple, and I was speaking with some people, and I was feeling kind of low, and I thought, I don't know if I can do what I want to do. And I just thought, well, just the next person, just call and listen. And so I called up, and someone answered, and I was just started listening. It just said, how is everything? And we worked through a lot of doubts that they had, and it was very helpful for them, I know. And they were able to come for programs after that and grow their connection with Swami. And that brought me out of my low mood and out of my doubts. And I find that is something beyond food, it's something beyond sleep. It does something that those things can't do. And that just simple science of causing someone else's reality, bring someone else to a higher conscious space, even if it's through listening, I find that's always available. There's always someone somewhere that wants to cause their reality, and so that was one of the most amazing things for me in experiencing that oneness, that we all have that common source and that common space. It's just whether or not we're able to see it, and thank you.
Mark, you're quite right about that. Also, actually, when this initiation happened, soon after that, I didn't know there's so many potentialities hidden inside of me. It was like saying yes to everything that was coming my way. I'd gotten into yoga teachers training program, the Nithyananda Vidyalaya was happening, the pregnancy care program was happening, the compilation of the program was happening. Probably I was just sleeping 1 or 2 hours in the night, and I had so much of energy to run through a clinic, to run the practice, to handle home, to do all these things. It was like amazing. And actually looking back, I didn't know where such a source of energy was happening. It's an endless source of energy. And it was all the time, yes, yes, yes. There's no way anything could bind me down. And that is the way the explosion of energy was happening in all dimensions whatsoever. Like he said, there's no time to think about food, or that was so irrelevant in life, or the sleep part of it. Because many a time people at home would say, what? You slept at 2 o'clock, you got up at 4 to do yoga. What is this? I mean, you've been doing it for months, and it was almost 2 years I was doing that, and we didn't even know that there was never any tiring space at all at that point of time. There's so much of contribution to society. And at that point of time, I realized we had done away with our identity. There's nothing as self, an agenda where I wanted anything here. It was only giving, 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 causing another's reality, like he said. That was most enriching, what happened soon after the initiation.
So I met Swamiji several years ago, and ever since then it was just like I went into a spaceship. Everything was fast forward. From the time that I met him, and then 9 months later I came to IA, I felt I had to be here in India. I felt my home was here, somehow I had to come back. So I pretty much did the whole next year, everything that was possible to, basically I sold my house and did all these things so that I could come here for the year Ananda Yogam program. Because I felt this burning inside, basically. It was like I had to get to my source. I had to find out more. I knew my whole life that there was something more than I was experiencing. There was something missing. But I couldn't figure out what it was. I wasn't given the tools necessarily in, Western society, and we don't know much about this Vedic sciences and things. So meeting Swamiji just profoundly changed my life in so many ways, from my lifestyle to my thinking to how I lived, how I felt about myself. So I'm propelling myself forward. I just knew that I had to come here and learn from him. So I did all of that within a year. I somehow got everything ready, and it was very difficult, and there was a lot of SDHD, self-doubt, self-hatred, self-denial, because my family and friends, they didn't know what was going on. They didn't want me to leave. It was very hard because I spent my life with them, But I just know that I had to come here. So I made it. And I lived here for a year, and I lived the lifestyle of a sannyas, basically also getting up, doing 4 a.m. yoga, working on projects and publications, and just giving my sincerity to everything that I was doing, and doing the practices that Swamiji gave. And all along, I knew that I wanted something more also. I knew that I wanted to take sannyas. But how was I presenting that to the other people around me? How was I presenting that to the family and to friends? It was a long process. And, it was very difficult. And last year, I went back for a month to see everybody before I came for July initiation, last July. And the understanding that I have is that from the initial time I met Swamiji, I knew I wanted to search for the truth for myself, for enlightenment. And I knew that I wanted to be directly working in his guidance. I was finished with the material things, with outer world things. But besides all that, and knowing that deep down, it was still hard to come here after, visiting everybody. But I just knew that if I got on the plane, that he would take care. So I did that. I got on the plane and came in July for, only a few days before the initiation. And I just felt such a kind of nerves. and turmoil, and because it's such a huge thing. Your whole entire life is going to become this. You can't hold on to your identities. You have to just trust in this. And even up to the point we were sitting there around the Vaidya Sarovar, you know, the initiation process began. I was still so nervous. So I wanted to describe how it went. Basically, I went down, we walk into the water, and then we go stand under the flowing water. The water, basically, the fountains flow on the 21-foot lingam, and they're energized basically by the healing herbs and medicines and the energy that comes through. So you go underneath there, come around, and take your kavi from Swamiji. So as soon as I stepped in the water, it was as if I was struck by, not by lightning, but everything melted away. Immediately as my foot hit the water, I felt my entire body was vibrating with light, with energy, with bliss. A smile came onto my face, which I could not stop. The whole time I thought I would float away. So everything was beautiful. The whole experience was beautiful. But the most important thing I felt that night, you know, after the initiation, I felt relief. In my life, I have never felt relief. It's like when you have a stressful day at work and you run home and you close the door and you lean on the door and you're like, I'm home. This is how I felt. I felt finally, for the first time in my life, I made the right decision and I was doing what I needed to do despite all that. And for 3-4 days, nothing bothered me. I was in this Shivoham space. Everything that happened, I was just observing everything. And it was just beautiful. Thank you, Swamiji.
Just adding on to Mahaviya's point, Master's initiation is the beginning of rising in love with the Master. Master will make you fall in love with yourself so much that you can never take yourself for granted. You will do whatever it takes to find out what you really are. And you know, the way it has happened with me, that I have become very curious about myself. There is more to me. This is what my master says, and what is there. So whatever I'm experiencing right now feels great, but I want to move further, and nothing seems to stop me in taking that journey, moving ahead on that path. So.
You're quite right, Ma, because I think it takes you deeper and deeper into yourself, and you want to explore that dimension more, and also the mystical side of him, which he keeps continuously revealing to you, and in bits and pieces, and you also want to experience that space very deeply. Even as Mahavya was sharing it, even when I got the sannyas initiation happening, Ma, it was something of a deep, big relief that happened inside of me. And I also felt I had just taken the right decision. Time again, repeatedly, even when I questioned myself. It was such a beautiful decision which came from the very core of my being. It never shifted. There was no, faltering there at all. It was a very, very clear call and an amazing space.
I want to share the same, actually. When the sannyas initiation happened, exactly after that, I was feeling, thank God I came back to myself. Exact that feeling, thank God, now I am to myself. And that time, that thought came, I don't know how many janmas I was waiting for this moment. And it happened to me. It was that much fulfillment and that much, thank God, it was like that. Like, now I am myself.
When Swamiji, an enlightened master who's highly integrated, initiates a human, any one of us, that energy transforms us, and what I really felt inside me is everything is possible. There's no impossibilities, because there's so much space where I can feel his space inside me.
Something I experienced when I went back to the West after my initiation. At first I was sad that I couldn't stay here, that I had all these family obligations to tie up. But what I experienced was that Swamiji talks about the macrocosmic Swami Nithyananda, which is massive, and the microcosmic, which is this tiny little bit that fills his body. But the macrocosmic is the one that's encircling the globe and able to deal with all of us no matter where we are. And I found that by just consciously saying whatever you need this body to do today, it's available. And some people say they aren't sure what to do once they're involved with the mission or how to help, and you really don't have to think of anything. I was approached by some Christian ministers who'd heard that I knew how to teach meditation, and they asked me to kick off their big convention for the weekend. And so I just said, okay, Swamiji, whatever you want to say. And I walked in empty, and the right things came through. And another time, prison asked me to come teach kids to meditate. And same thing, it might have been, in my old days, it might have been an intimidating experience, and I would have studied and planned for nights ahead of time what I would do. And I just basically stood in the parking lot and said, okay, Swamiji, it's your show, whatever you want. And I walked in, and just stuff was coming out of my mouth, and the kids were phenomenal. They were warm. And when I was being walked out, the guards said, well, you just blew our minds. And I said, well, that's an enlightened master. And you could just see the confusion on their face, like, well, what does that mean? So slowly, I think all of us are responsible for getting this kind of information all over the world, because it's such a state of grace when you fall into it that it doesn't take anything to help somebody understand how much better their life could be.
I want to add to your experience. I had the similar experience even before taking the Acharya initiation. I had this experience where I had to speak up about, and I was volunteering somewhere, and I had no clue what am I going to say, and it was about Vedic science. And I had no clue how I'm going to do that, and I had stage fear. Everything was there, and I was to speak up in front of really, like leaders of different religions, and I had to speak about Vedic science. I was so much nervous, but I just remembered Swamiji because I already was in an awakening. I already had done it. And I just said, Swamiji, that's it. And the things that came out of my mouth, actually, I was listening to it. Swamiji says that when I speak, I also listen. The same experience I had, that when I was speaking up, the words that came out of my mouth, I had no knowledge of it at all. And I was listening to it, and there were a lot of people sitting in front of me. They were amazed by the speech that I gave, and I was also amazed by the speech I gave. And the whole thing, the way it happened, it was purely master initiated. The initiation that happened, and the connection, the energy, the Vani, Vak that came out was pure Saraswati. So the initiation is something that does miracles.
I can also share this with you. This was the Acharya initiation that had happened, and it was for the ASP at that point of time. And we were about 30 of us who were undergoing the training, and ultimately there were only 3 of us who were selected for the Acharya initiation. And at that point of time, we were all seated in the Ananda Sabha hall, and we were asked to close our eyes. And the one thing that Swamiji said was, from now on, okay, whatever you say will become truth. So you cannot afford to speak in your unawareness, and even words that come out in the wrong sense of even abusing another person has to be held back, because every word that comes out of your mouth has to come out only with awareness. And if you're ready for it, then you come and take your initiation. Otherwise, don't even decide to come in. At that point of time, the 3 of us, we were just wondering, because it's not like even sometimes so many things just come out, casually we also use words, slangs which come out from our mouth. Then I said, oh God, this is going to really, really put me into awareness. But what can be better than this as an opportunity for a transformation to happen and teach people? So I just decided I will be going in for the Acharya initiation. And we were sitting with closed eyes, and then when the name was called, we went up, and he actually put the honey on our tongue. And at that point of time, with his initiation on the Agnya Chakra, he said, I will speak through you. And believe me, every program, ASP program that happened after that, all that would come out from my mouth, I will not even know. I would just not even know the answers to questions which would happen. It would just come from a different space, and I would be enjoying the answers coming out. It was an amazing space, an amazing dimension, and an enjoyment of the ASP itself, where every ASP was a learning for me. It was a transformation for me, as much as it was a transformation for the participants who were there. And then I realized the value of this initiation, the Acharya initiation. And when they all said, you don't even have to worry, you just go sit there in that deep space of surrender, you will see that he will speak through you. And that was the truth. And that is what happened. It was an amazing experience. The Acharya initiation itself was something of a different dimension altogether. It's too good.
Well, and the grace sort of continues in all aspects of your life. It's not just you going out helping others endlessly, which happens, but even the minutest detail. I remember my son, who was very young and tiny for his age, announced he was going to go travel the world alone. And knowing that this is what Swamis do, I didn't want to stop him, but just like Swamiji's parents, there's that concern, well, at least call if you get hurt, or at least let me know if you need help. And I remember taking him to the airplane, and we just sort of looked at each other like deer in the headlight, sort of going, bye, bye, and he flew to South America. And I got home, and I was trying so hard not to unravel, and I had Swamiji's picture right on my desktop, and I looked at Swamiji's picture, and I heard him in my head say, don't worry, I've got him. And this immense feeling of relief hit me, because I thought, what am I going to do? Follow my son for his whole life with a little leash on him, trying to protect him? It's impossible. But to have him connected to a master because of me, the grace had flowed. So even though my son wasn't particularly following his teachings, he had an amazingly mystical trip. He was gone for almost a year, and people taking care of him and magical things happening, and it was only because Swamiji said, it's okay, I've got him. And even recently, when I returned here, I heard my elderly mother was in distress, and Swamiji during darshan just said, it's okay, I'll take care of her. And same thing, that relief. And the last report I got was that she was absolutely fine. When my son called her, she didn't know what I was talking about. There was no stress anymore. Everything had just been lifted off of her. So Swamiji just doesn't take care of the masses. He takes care of every little person in your life. And especially now that I've put my name in for sannyas, there's still that, you're trying not to feel guilty about your family. Are they going to be taken care of? Well, yes, an incarnation is now looking after them, who can do a better job than I ever did. So problem solved.
Like he always says, you can only see that much of the road, but I am on the 30th floor. I can see what is coming and what is good for you and what is not. Just trust me. The deep surrender that happens to him, knowing that everything will be taken care of. After all, he is the creator, the sustainer, and the rejuvenator for the world. It's an amazing space. I can also tell you of these small clicks that happen even as we read his books. This was soon after the initiation. I had that frenzy to read all his books, I just picked up everything and I was, running through it. And with every, the word that got deeper into my system, that created some kind of a initiation or a click inside of me, shifted another dimension of me inside of me. There was a transformation which kept on happening after the initial initiation. I was just thinking it is only happening in the presence of the master and only when he touches you and things like that. But I noticed that it was a stepwise transformation which continuously started happening thereafter. There was no stopping it at all. And anything that would come in would give me that kind of an understanding and a natural tendency to flow with it, transform myself and live the way that was being told. It just happened very naturally.
Actually, I am also, I want to add something, what you said about. With initiation, what is happening that I'm understanding inside us is our brain, non-mechanical parts of the brain are awakening. Those powers are awakening. Whatever is there as blockage is being removed, and that right space, and the brain is functioning at its peak potential in that context in which the initiation is received. So that power is actually awakening inside. So the enlightenment initiation also, whatever is blockage, it is a journey to remove that blockage. Initiation is there. It is that just how fast you move. It is just that. So inner awakening, what it does is initiating into the enlightenment. Exactly what it is you just align yourself, align, and you are reaching there. And whatever is blockage also gets removed because you are initiated. You have already started walking.
Yes, Ma. Just adding on to your point. What I understand is that when initiation happens, you get some clicks, you experience something, and then gradually trust start happening. And once that trust starts, then the process of surrender also starts happening. And once you surrender, like in the book by Swamiji, Living Enlightenment, he mentions 3 kinds of surrender. First surrender is surrender of logic. Second one is surrender of emotions. And third is surrender of senses. So very rarely people are able to reach that third stage, what Arjuna experienced in front of Krishna. That whatever Krishna spoke, Arjuna said, yes, I see the same as you are seeing. So he did not even trusted his senses. He trusted Krishna's senses more. So once we reach that level of surrender, spiritual growth will just take off. So yes, what you just expanding onto what you said. Yes, this is the power of initiation. With initiation, everything begins. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, and initiation, by being initiated, I'm totally able to feel, and what I understand is, ability to explore the possibility happens. Before it is like impossible word is there inside, impossibility space is there, but as soon as initiation happens, that space of possibility, yes, this is possible, that conviction happens, and as soon as conviction happens, that power gets revealed. Because you just complete with whatever is obstacle and you are experiencing that space.
Well, and for anyone out there who's interested in reading a bit more about the whole guru-disciple relationship, there's a beautiful book Swamiji wrote called Rising in Love with the Master. And it explains dimensions that most of us have never heard of. So you can go on the website and check for that.
Shardama, can you explain about how sannyas initiation actually changes the its cellular level?
Basically, when I got initiated into sannyas, the very first initiation itself was a very big shift in the inner space. It was a huge shift. It was a total, like I could literally feel that I'm no more what until that moment I was feeling myself as. So big identity breaking had happened that time. After that, whatever I could feel that was not aligning with, after that also I was learning, because when I got initiated into sannyas, I had read about sannyas, I had heard from Swamiji what is sannyas, but that is still, it was not my experience. So when I got initiated into sannyas, I started experiencing that space also. And as much I experienced, also guidance was there. So I was aligning. And it was very fast process that my whole inner space got shifted. It was a very fast process. It was very simple process and it was very fast process. Nothing very fancy I had to do. Nothing very complicated things that I had to do. It was just happening inside. I was actually engaged in very simple stuff. Very simple things that I was given, and I was totally experiencing that all those things were creating a big transformation inside me. So whatever I was engaged in, whatever was my guidance, how I need to go forward was my path. And it was perfect guidance for me. And it created a complete space of sannyas inside me. And as soon as I got that, the self-expression is tremendous. My self-expression is tremendous. Before it was a lot of conditioning was there, which is like social conditioning. Now, almost none is there. So, cellular level, if I say, my self-expression means whatever was blocking me, which was even creating as a spiritual healer, my healing capability also increased like anything. I'm not only able to heal myself, I'm able to heal others also. And from the physical pains, I'm able to heal like people with arthritis. So that much, space. It is cellular level what I say. Like my space has become such that complete control over the system. That has happened. So not only that space is creating that I can even, share that space with others. That much self-expression is happening. So still it is growing. It is not that it is ultimate. Ultimate is Paramahamsa. So it is not ultimate. But a lot of experience of transformation, which is like complete self-expression of this human system, is there.
With this, we will be coming to the end of this episode of Vaakyaartha Sadhas. We'll end with the Purna Mantra. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sadguru Padukarpanamastu. Om Nithyananda.